A gold medal winner from our area and a fired federal worker will be our lawmakers' guest at tomorrow's presidential address.
Congressman Pete Stauber is bringing Duluth native Phil Vercoda as his guest at President Trump's joint address to Congress tomorrow. Vercoda is a member of the 1980 Miracle on Ice Olympic hockey team. Stauber, a Republican representing northern Minnesota, has authored a bill that would award that team with congressional gold medals.
Meanwhile, Kate Severson, who had been working for Voyageurs National Park up until last week, will be U.S. Senator Tina Smith's guest, as she's one of the National Park Service employees who was let go as part of the Department of Government Efficiency's efforts to downsize the federal government. As Smith, a Democrat from Minnesota, says people like Kate played essential roles.
Still to come, dry conditions